You thought being easy to like would make people respect you. It makes a certain kind of logical sense. Remove the friction. Accommodate consistently. Become the person no one ever has a problem with. But something strange started happening instead. The more agreeable you became, the less seriously people seemed to take you. You became reliable. You became appreciated, but you did not become respected. It was a quiet shift, not dramatic, not something you could point to on a specific day. You just noticed, eventually, that your voice didn't carry the same weight in the room as other people's did. Your mind runs a script in social situations. It sounds like this. Just agree. It's easier. I don't want to make this awkward. It's not worth the argument. You tell yourself you're simply being easygoing, that you genuinely don't care about the outcome as much as they do. But beneath that casual surface, something more active is happening. Your mind is scanning the environment for potential displeasure and preemptively adjusting you to avoid it. The very strategy meant to keep relationships safe may slowly be removing your influence inside them. We need to look at what this behavior actually is underneath the agreeableness. People-pleasing is rarely about pure kindness. Kindness is freely given. It requires no specific reaction from the receiver. People-pleasing is something different. It is anticipatory rejection control. Your mind is attempting to neutralize conflict before it even has a chance to materialize. The subconscious logic runs something like this. If I disappoint people, they will withdraw their approval. Now they will distance themselves. They will quietly reject me. So the mind moves first. It removes the friction before the other person has a chance to react. Your mind chose safety. It learned, perhaps a long time ago, that agreement is an effective shield against the specific discomfort of being seen as difficult, as too much, as the reason things got tense. And for a while, it worked. Things stayed smooth. Conflict stayed low. People felt comfortable around you. But if this strategy protects relationships, why does it slowly weaken your position inside them? There is an invisible loop that runs inside chronic accommodation. It begins when you minimize your preferences. You say whatever works for you or I don't mind. Even when you do, others feel no resistance. The interaction flows without friction. Because there is no resistance, your boundaries become unclear to them. Not because they stopped caring, but because your limits were never made visible. Over time, your opinions carry less weight, not because they are less valid, but because they are rarely offered with any force behind them. And quietly, not deliberately, not maliciously, respect begins to erode. People do not make a conscious decision to respect you less. They simply adjust to what they reliably experience. And what they reliably experience is that your agreement can be assumed, that your resistance won't appear, that checking with you is optional. The problem is not your kindness. The problem is predictable compliance. When people know you will default to their preference, they stop factoring you into the equation. Or they do not have to negotiate with you, because you have already negotiated against yourself before you opened your mouth. You are essentially training people to overlook you. Your mind chose safety. It prioritized the absence of conflict over the presence of your own outline. And while that keeps the immediate moment calm, it creates a long-term deficit in how you are perceived. There is a distinction that tends to get lost in conversations about this. Kindness earns appreciation. It makes you liked. Boundaries earn psychological weight. They make you respected. These are not the same thing, and they do not produce the same outcome inside a relationship. When you are genuinely kind, When you extend patience, when you show up reliably, people feel warmth toward you. But warmth is not the same as influence. Non-warmth does not translate into "I should check what this person thinks." Weight does. Weight comes from knowing that this person has a position, that they will hold it, that their agreement means something, because their disagreement is also possible. When predictable compliance replaces visible boundaries, warmth remains, but weight disappears. There is no solid wall to lean against when people interact with you. There is only yielding space, and people stop leaning on what they know will simply move out of the way. Here is where this becomes identity level, because most people who carry this pattern do not think of it as a strategy. They think of it as who they are. I'm just a nice person. I don't like conflict. I just want everyone to be comfortable. Those statements may be true, but they are also functioning as shields, that they protect you from examining something more uncomfortable, that the agreeableness is not entirely about generosity, that some of it, maybe a significant amount of it, is about managing the specific fear of being seen as difficult, as demanding, as the person who made things awkward. You are not respected less because you are kind. You are respected less because people learn that your agreement can be assumed. Kindness and approval seeking are not the same thing, but they live close enough together that one becomes easy to use as a cover for the other. Your mind is not doing this consciously. It is not calculating. It simply found a way to stay accepted, and then labeled that way my personality. A relationship where only one person is allowed to have distinct edges is not really a relationship. It is an arrangement, and arrangements built on chronic accommodation tend to produce something that rarely gets named directly. You begin to resent them for not seeing you, and they unconsciously respect you less for never showing them who you are. It is a lonely dynamic, disguised as social harmony. Human relationships quietly organize around predictability and boundaries, around what they can expect from you. When what they can expect is frictionless agreement, they stop building the kind of mental model that includes your preferences, your limits, your voice. You become the stable variable, the one they don't need to check on, the one whose response they already know. Your mind chose peace inside that dynamic, but peace without structure eventually becomes invisibility. Not dramatic invisibility, not the kind you notice all at once, or the kind where you look up one day and realize you haven't said what you actually thought in a long time. Where relationships feel smooth but somehow thin, where people like you, but the weight of your presence has quietly faded from the room. What if people-pleasing was never really about generosity? What if it was always about emotional safety? People-pleasing does not create connection. It creates comfort for others, and uncertainty about you. Not the kind of uncertainty that unsettles them, the kind that creates absence. They're not sure where you stand because you have rarely shown them, and in that absence, a specific kind of closeness becomes impossible, the kind that requires two real positions meeting, where both people are distinct, where disagreement is possible, where agreement actually means something because it was never guaranteed. The discomfort of stating a preference is temporary. The erosion of respect is permanent. You are not trying to disappear. Your mind was trying to stay accepted in a world where disagreement felt costly. It built a system that worked, that kept things smooth, that kept rejection at a distance, that made you easy to be around. Patterns that protect us early sometimes limit us later, not because they were wrong to form, but because the conditions that made them necessary often change before the pattern does. The behavior was never the problem. The behavior was the response. You were reacting, not failing, what it was reacting to, and whether those same conditions still apply. That is the part worth sitting with.